My parents pressured me into babysitting my nephew for free, so I left their house silently and took control of my life. Forever. I'm a 28-year-old woman, and for as long as I can remember, my parents have treated me like free labor, not family. While other kids spent weekends sleeping in or hanging out with friends, I was scrubbing floors, folding laundry, and cooking dinner before I was even old enough to drive. My parents called it teaching responsibility. But it never felt like a lesson. It felt like a sentence. Then there was my sister, Jessica. 3 years younger, bright smile, and endless excuses. She was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Whenever she forgot chores, my mom would sigh. She's just creative, not lazy. When she failed classes, Dad would joke, Jessica's a free spirit. But if I came home with a B instead of an A, I'd get a lecture about wasting potential. It didn't stop when we grew up. Even after I started working full-time, they leaned on me constantly. I was the one running errands, paying small bills until payday and watching Jessica's son Eli. Whenever she needed a break, every time I mentioned being tired, Mom would say, "You're so reliable, it's your strength." It sounded like praise, but it felt like a trap. Still, I kept doing it. I told myself family came first, that I was lucky to be needed. But deep down, resentment was simmering quiet, sharp, and impossible to ignore. One evening, while I was folding laundry in the living room, Jessica burst through the door, her toddler on her hip and tears in her eyes. "I'm moving back home for a while," she announced, voice trembling but eyes dry. Before I could even process it, Mom clasped her hands together and said with relief, "Of course, sweetheart. You'll have all the help you need. Right, honey?" She turned to me, smiling expectantly, and that was the moment something inside me shifted. Jessica moved back home the very next week, dragging along boxes of clothes, makeup, and toys that somehow ended up cluttering every inch of the house. She claimed her husband needed space, but I couldn't ignore how relaxed she seemed, laughing on her phone while I tripped over Eli's toy cars on my way to work. My parents treated her return like a blessing, not a burden. "It's good to have the family together again," Dad said, as I cleaned the kitchen after another one of Jessica's late-night snacks. At first, I tried to be patient. Maybe she really was struggling. Maybe she just needed time. But a while turned into a few months, and suddenly I was back to the same old pattern: up early for work, home late to feed and bathe Eli because Jessica was exhausted. I found her dressed up, scrolling through her phone in the living room. "Going out?" I asked. She barely looked up. "Yeah, I've got an interview, kind of. Don't wait up." She came back past midnight, smelling like perfume and tequila. When I brought it up to Mom the next morning, she didn't even look concerned. "You're overreacting," she said, pouring coffee. "Jessica's under a lot of stress. She deserves to relax sometimes." I stared at her, speechless. "And what about me? I work full-time. I'm exhausted too." Mom just sighed. "You're stronger than she is, honey. You can handle it." That was the script. Always had been. Jessica got pity. I got responsibility. By the third week, my days blurred together. Office errands, dishes, diapers, repeat. I barely had time to breathe. And no one even noticed then on Friday evening. Jessica waltzed in wearing a new dress, phone in hand, and said cheerfully, "Oh, by the way, you'll watch Eli again this weekend, right?" My parents looked at me expectantly. And for the first time, I didn't answer right away. I tried to set boundaries the following week. One night, after cleaning up dinner while Jessica scrolled through her phone, I said quietly, "I can't keep doing this every night. I need time for myself." "God, you're so dramatic. It's just a few hours. You don't even have kids. You don't get it." Before I could reply, Mom chimed in from the kitchen table, "Don't start a fight. Jessica's going through enough already." I stared at them both, heat rising in my chest. "I'm tired, Mom. I work full-time too." Dad looked up from his paper, sighing. "You've always been so dependable. Don't let us down now." That sentence, "don't let us down," hit harder than it should have. It wasn't even a request. It was an order, coated in guilt. And like always, I gave in. The next few days blurred together. I'd wake up before sunrise to get ready for work, return home to feed Eli, clean up after everyone, and collapse into bed long after midnight. My body ached, my patience frayed, and the house began to feel like a cage. At work, my boss pulled me aside. "You've been distracted lately. Everything okay at home?" I forced a smile. "Just family stuff." He nodded sympathetically, but I saw the doubt in his eyes. Another warning. Another thing slipping through my fingers because of them. One night, after another endless day, I walked into my room and just stood there staring at the wall. My laundry was piled up, my dinner cold, my phone buzzing with texts from Mom, "Can you check on Eli?" Jessica's tired again. I sank onto my bed and whispered to myself, "Do they even see me anymore? Or am I just a convenient set of hands?" The silence answered for them. And that's when I realized Di wasn't just tired. I was disappearing. A few days later, things shifted, but not in the way I hoped. Jessica and my parents suddenly started acting nice. Too nice. My mom made my favorite lasagna. Dad offered to pick me up from work, and Jessica even asked how my week was going. It felt staged. Like I'd stepped into some family sitcom where everyone played their part just a little too perfectly. That Saturday, Mom announced we'd have a family dinner. She said it was to show appreciation. Wanted to believe it was real. That maybe they'd finally seen how much I'd been doing for them. So I helped set the table, forcing down the unease in my chest. When we sat down, Jessica raised her glass dramatically. "I just want to thank my sister," she began, eyes glistening. "You've been such a lifesaver, helping me through the hardest time of my life." I blinked, surprised by the sudden praise. "Thanks, Jess." She smiled sweetly. "I honestly don't know what I'd do without you. Or Mom and Dad. You've all been amazing." For a moment, I almost softened, till she continued. "So," she said cheerfully, "I've started seeing someone new. His name's Tyler. Things are going really well, and he wants to take me out of town for a few days. But don't worry, Lai, we'll be fine with you, right?" The room fell quiet. Then Mom clapped her hands together, grinning. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. You deserve happiness." Dad nodded in agreement. "Yes, and your sister will keep Eli safe, as always." I sat there frozen, the lasagna suddenly tasteless in my mouth. They weren't thanking me, they were conditioning me. Rewarding obedience before tightening the leash again. Jessica leaned across the table and whispered, "You don't mind, right? You're so good with him." I forced a smile, but inside, something in me finally started to crack. That night, I couldn't sleep. Jessica's fake gratitude kept replaying in my mind, like an echo I couldn't turn off. Every thank you felt like an insult wrapped in sugar. Around midnight, I got up for water and noticed her door slightly open. She was talking on the phone, laughing in that careless, high-pitched way she used to when she got away with something. "Yeah, they totally bought it," she giggled. "Mom thinks I'm rebuilding my life. Please. They're just my free babysitters and my sister. She does everything. It's perfect." I froze in the hallway, blood turning cold. My sister, the one I'd sacrificed, sleep, peace. Insanity 4 was bragging about using us. "I'll come see you next weekend," she said. "Don't worry about Eli. My sister's basically his second mom anyway. She's too soft to say no." Something inside me broke right then. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and captured her words. Not because I planned to use them immediately, but because I needed proof that I wasn't crazy. The next morning, I confronted her quietly while she was scrolling through her phone on the couch. "I heard you last night, Jessica," I said. "I know what you said about me and about Mom and Dad." She barely looked up. "You're eavesdropping now? That's creepy. You called me your babysitter? You said you're using me." Jessica smirked, finally meeting my eyes. "So what? Go ahead, tell them. You think they'll believe you over me? You're just bitter. You always have been." The arrogance in her voice made my stomach twist. She was right, they wouldn't believe me. They never did. So I said nothing. I just walked away, trembling with anger I couldn't express. But in that silence, something in me shifted again. Not rage-resolve, because if no one else would see what she'd done, I'd find a way to make them feel it. After that night, everything inside me went quiet. Not peaceful, just empty. I stopped trying to argue, stopped explaining myself, stopped hoping my family would change. Each morning I woke up, went to work, came home, and mechanically fell into the same routine. Cook, clean, babysit, repeat. I was a ghost haunting my own life. Jessica strutted around the house like she owned it. Mom still doted on her, Dad kept pretending everything was fine, and I just faded further into the background. I barely recognized myself anymore. One evening, while feeding Eli his dinner, I caught my reflection in the kitchen window, dark circles under my eyes, shoulders slumped, expression lifeless. For a split second, I didn't even know who I was looking at. I whispered, "What happened to you?" and actually startled myself with the sound of my voice. Later that night, Jessica came home late again. I heard her heels clicking down the hallway, laughter spilling from her phone call. "Yeah, I can't wait for the trip," she said. "Eli's fine, my sister's got him as usual." I clenched my jaw, willing myself not to cry. Mom appeared in my doorway a few minutes later. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "you look tired. Don't forget Jessica's big weekend coming up. You'll need to keep Eli a few extra days." Something inside me finally cracked. "Do you even hear yourselves?" I asked, my voice shaking. "You treat me like a maid, like I don't even matter." Mom's face hardened. "Don't be dramatic. Family helps family." When she left, I sat on the edge of my bed and finally let myself break. The tears came in waves, years of exhaustion, guilt, and anger washing over me. I realized then that I wasn't living anymore. I was surviving everyone else's life but my own, and I couldn't keep doing it much longer. By the following weekend, something inside me was already unraveling. I moved through the house on autopilot, barely speaking to anyone. But the final straw came on Sunday night. During one of Jessica's so-called family dinners, she'd invited her new boyfriend, Tylora Smug. Loud guy with too much cologne and the confidence of someone who'd never faced consequences. The moment he walked in, he dropped his shoes in the middle of the living room, threw himself onto the couch and yelled, "Man, it's great having such a big house." I froze mid-step. Such a big house. Our parents' house. The one I'd been paying utilities for without complaint. During dinner, Eli started crying. Jessica barely looked up from her plate before pushing him toward me. "Can you handle him? He only listens to you anyway." I took a slow breath. "No, Jessica. He's your son. You handle it." The table went still. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. "Don't talk to your sister like that," she scolded. Dad chimed in sharply. "You're being disrespectful. She's a single mother doing her best." I laughed, bitter and tired. Her best? She hasn't spent more than an hour alone with her kid in weeks. Jessica's expression twisted and she hissed, "You're just jealous because people actually care about me."
How's it?
I stood up, shaking. "You know what? I'm done. You can all take care of yourselves from now on." Left my plate untouched and walked to my room, ignoring their shouts. Behind the locked door, my hands trembled as I pulled out my duffel bag. I began to pack quietly just essentials, some savings, a few clothes. My heart pounded, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was clarity. I wasn't running away this time. I was escaping, and when the sun rose, I'd be gone before anyone even realized what they'd lost. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound, the ticking clock, the hum of the fridge. Eli's faint whimpers through the wall felt louder than usual, like the house itself was holding its breath. I folded one last shirt, zipped up my duffel bag, and sat on the edge of the bed, waiting for morning. When the first sliver of dawn crept through the curtains, I slipped out quietly. My parents' door was shut, Jessica's room dark. I paused in the hallway, staring at the family photos lining the wall. In every picture, I was always in the background holding the baby, cleaning something, smiling politely while everyone else shined. For once, I didn't feel guilt. I just felt done. I left my house key on the kitchen counter beside a note that said only 6 words. "I need space. Don't contact me." Then I walked out the door. The cold morning air hit me like a shock, but it felt clean, like breathing for the first time. My small car was packed and ready. I started the engine, hands shaking, and drove away without looking back. By the time the sun fully rose, my phone was already buzzing nonstop. Dozens of messages from Mom, Dad, and Jessica. Where are you? You can't just abandon family. Eli's crying for you. You're being selfish. I turned the phone face down and kept driving. I ended up renting a tiny room across town, a single bed. Thin curtains and a view of an alley. But it was mine. I unpacked my bag slowly, one item at a time, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Relief when night came. I lay in bed listening to the city instead of screaming or guilt trips. For the first time, silence didn't feel lonely. It felt like freedom. It didn't take long for the guilt campaign to begin. By the second day, my phone was full of missed calls and long emotional voicemails. Mom's voice cracked as she said, "You've broken this family apart." Dad's tone was colder. "You'll regret this childish decision." And Jessica? Hers was the worst. "You left me stranded, and Eli's been asking for you nonstop. How could you do this to him?" I didn't respond, not once. But every message chipped away at the fragile calm I'd built. I had to remind myself I left because they never cared when I was there. Then the extended family got involved. My aunt called one evening saying, "Sweetheart, your mom is worried sick. You know, Jessica's been through so much. Don't you think you could help just a little?" I swallowed hard. "Aunt Lisa, I've helped my whole life. I just can't anymore." She sighed heavily. Family doesn't give up on family. When the call ended, I sat in the dark, staring at my reflection in the window. My heart ached, but this time I didn't cave. Meanwhile, something strange happened. Without the constant noise of their demands, I began to feel lighter. I slept through the night. I made breakfast just for myself. I even laughed at a stupid show on TV. Simple things, but each one felt like rebellion. At work, my boss noticed the change. "You seem different," he said. "More focused," I smiled. Just cleaning up some things in my life. Still, the silence after their fury felt eerie. Weeks passed and the calls stopped. No more texts, no more guilt trips. For the first time, I wasn't needed, and it scared me almost as much as it freed me. Then one afternoon, my phone buzzed again. A single message from my boss. "Can you come in early tomorrow? We need to talk about something important." My heart raced, not from fear, but from possibility. The next morning, I walked into work early, nerves twisting in my stomach. My boss, Mark, waved me into his office with a rare smile. "I've noticed how much you've stepped up lately," he said. "You've been more reliable than ever, focused, consistent, dependable. We're opening a new department, and I'd like you to lead it." For a moment, I couldn't speak. The word dependable used to sting. My parents weaponized. It turned it into a chain. But here, it meant something different. Respect, recognition, choice. I'd be honored, I said finally, voice trembling. That day I worked harder than ever, but for once it was for me. I stayed late, but the exhaustion felt lighter, cleaner. No one waiting at home to guilt-trip me, no toddler cries, no chaos, just silence in control. After work, I stopped by a small furniture store and bought a cheap dining table. A little wobbly, but perfect for my new apartment. I set it up alone that night, eating takeout under the dull glow of a lamp, smiling through tears. I also started therapy. For the first time, someone listened without dismissing my pain. My therapist said something that stuck with me: being needed isn't the same as being loved. That line became my anchor. Weeks turned into months, and life slowly took shape again. My mornings began with music instead of alarms. My evenings were quiet, predictable, and entirely my own. I started journaling, cooking, even sketching against small pieces of myself I'd buried years ago. My parents still texted occasionally short. Guilt-soaked messages like "family dinners aren't the same without you." Jessica sent photos of Eli, writing he misses his auntie. But I never replied. Not out of cruelty, out of survival. Then, one night, as I was closing my laptop, my phone buzzed again. A message from Jessica. I need to talk. It's important, this time. She sounded desperate. I hesitated before replying. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but something about Jessica's message felt different, less entitled, more frantic. Against my better judgment, I told her to meet me at a nearby cafe after work. She arrived late, dragging Eli behind her. Her makeup was smudged, eyes swollen. I didn't know where else to go, she said breathlessly. Tyler left me. I can't pay rent. I just need a little help. Just for a few days. For a second, the old version of me stirred the one who always fixed everything. But I forced her down. Jessica, I said quietly, you have to figure this out. I can't be your safety net anymore. Her lip quivered. Please, just watch Eli while I look for work. You're so good with him? No. The word came out calm. Final, she blinked, stunned, like she hadn't heard it before. What do you mean now? I've always taken care of everyone, I interrupted, and it nearly destroyed me. Right then, my phone rang. Mom. Jessica's face hardened. Did you tell them not to help me? She snapped. I sighed. You don't need enemies, Jessica. You create your own. She started crying loudly, drawing attention from the other tables. You're heartless. Eli loves you. I love him too, I said softly, but loving him doesn't mean sacrificing myself again. I stood, placing some cash on the table for her coffee. You'll be okay. But this time, you'll do it on your own. I walked out, she shouted. You're just jealous. You always were. Her words didn't sting anymore, they just echoed into the noise of the street. Powerless. That night Mom called, furious. How could you abandon your sister again? I took a deep breath and said, because she was never my responsibility. Then I hung up. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Months passed after that confrontation, and for once, life was calm. My mornings began with sunlight spilling through my window, not my mother's voice calling my name. I'd wake up, brew coffee, sit at that wobbly dining table. I'd bought the same one that had become my quiet symbol of independence. Every creak it made reminded me. I built this piece myself. Work thrived. I took that promotion and ran with it, eventually leading a small team that respected me in ways my own family never did. Mark, my boss, once told me, you're the most dependable person I've ever worked with. And instead of feeling trapped, I smiled. Dependable didn't mean invisible anymore. It meant trusted, chosen, valued. Jessica tried calling a few more times after the cafe. Then the call stopped. Word eventually got back to me through my Aunt Jessica, had moved out of our parents' house after another breakup. I got dragging Eli along. Mom and Dad were struggling to manage without me, constantly bickering about how things used to be. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. My silence became my revenge. They'd built their comfort on my sacrifice. Now they were forced to live in the ruins of their own dependence. One evening, I got a message from an unknown number. It was Jessica. I'm sorry, it read. I didn't realize how much I hurt you. Stared at it for a long time, then deleted it without replying. Forgiveness didn't require conversation. That night, I stepped out onto my tiny balcony. The city hummed below, alive and restless, but I felt grounded for the first time in years. I thought of that scared, exhausted version of me who'd once cried on her bed, begging for peace. She finally got it. Walking away wasn't selfish, it was survival. And in saving myself, I finally learned what family was never supposed to take: my freedom.